Shalom. I'm Rabbi Nathan Davidovich, speaking to you on behalf of the Web Yeshiva, speaking to you from Efrat, Israel. As we all know, we are coming up upon the saddest day in the Jewish year, the mourning day of Tisha B, which occurs this coming Wednesday night and Thursday. It's a day of mourning, a day of fasting for 25 hours, mourning the destruction of the two holy temples in Jerusalem. The period before it, the period that we're in right now, the 3 weeks before, are called Beis Hamikdsh. The Mitzorim really is a narrow place, a place of narrowness. This Shabbos has a special name. This Shabbos is called Shabbat Chazon. And Shabbat Chazon is called that because of the Haftorah of this Shabbos, which is from Isaiah, the very first part of Isaiah. And the portion of the Haftorah begins, Chazon Yeshayahu ben Amutz, the prophecies of Yeshayahu, the son of Amutz, who prophesied in Yehuda and Jerusalem. And he says, Shimu Shomayim v'hazinu, listen, O heavens, and hear. Avazinu heretz, land should hear, the earth shall hear. Ki Hashem diber, Hashem is speaking. And then what does he say? And this is a very important thing. He says, Bonim godalti, romamti, I've raised up children and made them exalted, v'heim pashubi, and they've sinned against me. They've transgressed my commandments. Interesting, this concept of chazon. There is no other prophecy that begins with the word chazon, a vision, the vision of Isaiah. And the question I want to discuss in this short Devar Torah tonight is, why are we crying on Tisha B? What are we mourning for? I said we're mourning for the destruction of the temples. Okay, but the temples were destroyed almost 2,000 years ago. One more than that. We're crying for something that's in the past. And on the surface would look like we're crying for something that isn't here. What good is our crying? And really what we are crying for is not the past. But as Jews, we cry in a different way. We cry with a cry of hope, of tikva. You recall when all the Jewish babies were thrown into the Nile, and then Pharaoh's daughter walked down to the river and heard the sound of a baby crying, and it was Moses who had been put in a basket in the river. And she said, this is the sound of a Jewish baby crying. How did she know it was a Jewish baby? Because when a Jewish baby cries, and when a Jew cries, it is not a cry of despair. We're not saying we give up. No, it's a cry of tikva. It's a cry of hope. It's a cry of recognizing that we're crying for what we can do to bring the future. On Tisha B, we are crying because we have not rebuilt the temple in our day. And the Talmud tells us that anybody who does not rebuild the temple during his lifetime, it's as if he has destroyed the temple in his lifetime. What is Chazon telling us? Chazon Yeshayahu, what is Isaiah telling us about hope and about why we should not despair? Because the sentence that I read to you says, Bonim godalti, I have raised up children. And then later on it says, a few sentences later it says, Bonim mashchisim azvu es Hashem. My destructive children have left Hashem. What's the common denominator between those two statements? It's banim, children. God is referring to us as children. And we know that a father, no matter what a child does, loves the child. No matter what we do, Hashem loves us. There's discussion in the Gemara, and Rabbi Meir says, Ben kach uben kach. No matter what the Jewish people does, banim atem l'Hashem, you are children to God. And since you are children to God, you're able to have hope. You're able to have hope that Hashem will grant our tefillot, will grant our prayers, wherever we are praying, whatever we are praying for. But what is the key? The key to that is banim, children, to act like children of God. How are brothers and sisters supposed to act to one another? Are they supposed to act to one another with hatred? You know, the whole story of Tisha B, one of the stories in the Gemara Gittin, brings a story of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, where there was a wealthy man in Jerusalem who was having a big banquet. He had a friend named Kamsa, and he told his servant to go invite Kamsa. And by mistake, the friend invited Bar Kamsa, who was his enemy. Bar Kamsa shows up at the banquet, and the wealthy man is just livid that he's there. He orders him to leave, and he says, "Look, don't embarrass me. I'll pay for whatever I eat. No, get out of here. I'll pay for half the meal. No, get out of here. I'll pay for the entire meal. No." And he embarrassed him. He got out, and as a result, Kamsa, or Bar Kamsa, was so upset that he went to the Romans and said slander about the Jews, which ultimately ended up in the destruction of the second Beis Hamikdsh, the second temple. We're taught that the second temple was destroyed by sinas chinam, by hatred without any reason for it. We have to ask ourselves, as we look at our world today, whether it's we're looking at the Jewish world, we're looking at the world around us, are we seeing sinas chinam? People are hating for the purpose of hating? Or are we seeing ahavas chinam, loving because love is what you should do? As a child, we have to love our brothers and sisters. That's the building blocks that will bring us back to the Beis Hamikdsh. We also know that during this time, these 3 weeks, this narrow space, God is found in the narrow space. God is accessible. You know, when you want to reach a king in the olden days, you had to go through a lot of obstacles, guards, moats, and so on. But the king went out to visit the people. He's out in the field. He's easily accessible. God is easily accessible to us right now. We just have to ask him, turn to him. It is said in the Gemara that at the time that the Beis Hamikdsh was being destroyed, the second Beis Hamikdsh was being destroyed, the cherubim, which were over the ark, who normally would hug each other when the children of Israel were doing God's will and would turn the other way when the children of Israel were violating God's will. Here they were hugging each other. And they were hugging each other because they realized that God was destroying the bricks and stones, but was not destroying his people. His people continued as we are here today. The Gemara further says that there is no holiday as great as Tisha B. It's a holiday that ultimately will be one of great feasting. Why? Because it's a holiday where God demonstrates his love to the Jewish people. I'm hoping that, we don't have Tisha B this year, that the Beis Hamikdsh is rebuilt before then. We don't need it anymore. If we don't, let's think about what we are doing to prevent its rebuilding. What we are doing to not build the Beis Hamikdsh in our day by our acts in accordance with God. I wish everybody, if we have to fast, a meaningful fast Wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom. I thank you for listening on behalf of the webyeshiva.org. Shabbat Shalom.